Welcome. I'm Sophia from Live Junkie Forever, and today is going to be my February update for my project Pan. And I have a lot of empties, I have a lot of things I'm bringing in, and I have a lot of progress. So I'm going to get into it right now because I'm literally recording this during a lunch hour. And just as a heads up, I will only be covering items I've either finished or have made significant progress on. Anything that I've touched once or twice, I'm not going to be talking about because there's no point, and this would be a really long video. It's already going to be a really long video. So let's get into it right now. The first thing that I finished up is this Flower Beauty Low Light Liquid Contour in light. This was very light. This is barely any pigment, and when I introduced it, I was all the way up here, yeah, right there, and then during the first update, I actually dropped all the way down here. There was a bit of an air bubble, but not enough to account for that huge of a difference. What happened was when I realized that this was really not pigmented, I was just flying through it because I noticed a bit of a double chin situation that I had to take care of. So I finished this. This was an easy finish. I also finished this Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm in Brown Sugar. I literally finished this like 2 days ago. It took forever. And good timing on my end too, because the season is changing. I'm not feeling these brown deep shades anymore. So this is done. I introduced it at the halfway point and I finished it all. I also finished this Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip in the shade Coconut. When I introduced it, you can almost not see where it is, but like the line was like right here and I finished it. I actually had to dig into it. If you don't know, this doesn't click all the way up. You do have to dig in, which bothers me to no end for a product that costs $24. And I finished the Jeffree Star Cosmetics lip liner. Can I get it out? Yeah, I can get it out. This is all that's left of it. This was in the shade Birthday Suit. All done with that. I finished both of the NARS powders. These were the Soft Matte Advanced Perfecting Powders. I had them in the shade Creek and Cliff. As you can see, I finished both of them and I really enjoyed this powder all over my face. I did not enjoy it under my eye. If I were to ever get these again, which I don't think I would because it's really expensive for 9 grams of powder, I would get Creek again because this was the slightly deeper shade and made my face look more alive. I will keep these in order to press some stuff into it. I also finished the e.l.f. Halo Glow setting powder in the shade Light Pink. There's nothing left. I was at the halfway point when I introduced it. It's marked here and here, and there's nothing left. By the way, this has, let me see how much product it actually had. It had 6.8 grams of product. So I can go through one of these in about 2 to 3 months. So me using half of this is not really irregular when I've been using a lot of cream products. So that is gone and out of my collection. Yeah, okay. We're sleepy. So this little sleepy dumpling is River. And she's gonna go to sleep under my desk, right? What a big yawn. I also finished whatever I had in this compact. This was the Vanilla MAC pigment. I just had like a pan of it, like it wasn't tightly pressed or anything. I pressed it in, but I'm done and I'm excited to be done with that because well, you'll find out in a second. I also finished this e.l.f. matte putty primer. There's like nothing left now. I finished all 3 of these minis and I'm gonna keep this little tiny jar in order to depot something else into it. I also finished both of these sprays. I finished the Rare Beauty Always an Optimist setting spray. There's, as you can see, nothing in it. What I'd done is I'd actually also decanted all of whatever was in this all-nighter spray from Urban Decay, and this was new when I introduced it at the beginning of January. So all of these are done. See, nothing in there. And I also finished this Pixi Retinol Tonic. I was at this point when I believe I first introduced it. I think I was somewhere around here when I first introduced it. Then I was here last month. And then I decided to really like hunker down on it and use it quite regularly. And I did that because I really want to get more retinol into my skincare routine. So I kind of had to. This was the first step. I'm going to be going into retinols, then I'm going to be going into retinol, and then I'm hoping to again reintroduce tretinoin at some point because that is the ultimate goal, but that is the hardest product for me to introduce into my skincare routine. Now that I've covered things I've finished, so they're completely out of my collection, I'm going to talk about goals that I've met. And the first one would be the Haus Labs Triclone Foundation in the shade, I can't remember, it doesn't matter, I'll tell you in a second. I started it right here. The goal was to use it 10 times. I actually used it 15 times, and I'm right down there. I also had a 10 use goal on this Revlon Illuminance Serum Tint. I used it 10 times. And what's funny is I was able to finally let this settle and shine light into it, and it's just like right above this line right here. I may at some point introduce it back, but I do want to cycle through my foundations and base products, so I'm gonna put it down right here. I also met my goal on this IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Dark Spots Concealer in Fair Neutral. I was measuring it like this, so I introduced it at the very top right there. Can you see it? I'm gonna try to put in pictures, and then last month I was somewhere right there, and my goal was to go right under the silver stripe, but I'm a little bit below that. So once or twice I did have to use this on the rest of my skin to actually warm up a foundation that I was using. So that's predominantly how I used it, but I'm fine with that because it actually created a really nice look. I've also fully met my goals on this Lime Crime Venus Immortalis palette. Every one of these shades has been used at least 10 times each, and I would say that I actually used, which shade is this? This one, Moth, 12 times. I've used this shade over here 23 times. The shade down here, Hail, has been used 13 times, and this shade down here, Cameo, has been used 12 times. So I've actually gone over my 10 times each, and I think at this point, not counting the extra digging into that I did with these two shades, I've used this palette over 100 times. So this one is rolling out but remaining in my collection. I also met my goal on the Pat McGrath Divine Rose eyeshadow palette. My goal was to use this palette 10 times, not just 10 shadows, but like in 10 looks, so multiple shadows per look, and I have achieved that goal. Once or twice I actually used this one as a highlighter on my face, and that was actually quite a lot of fun. I also met my goals on these two eyeliners, and that would be the Sephora 12 Hour eyeliner in, what is the shade, in Coconut, and I was supposed to use it 10 times. I used it 10 times in my waterline. I'm gonna keep it in my collection because I think it's gonna be nice in the summer, but it's not my favorite. I may actually declutter it before the end of this year. And my other goal was to use this Urban Decay eyeliner from the Game of Thrones collection, and this is in the Night King 10 times, and I've actually gone, I think, 12 or 13 times, so I really, really, really love this eyeliner, and I think I'm going to keep it just for winters because it's a really deep blue. I am wearing it in my waterline. This is like number 13, but I'm wearing it in my waterline. I don't want to swatch it because, you can't get it, so it doesn't really matter. I also reached 2 of my goals in the Charlotte Tilbury quad. My goals were to finish whatever shade was in here, and it was like a bone shade. I can't remember from where that I'd repressed into here. So as you can see, it is done and over with. And the other goal was to hit pan. So my goal on this palette is to hit pan in all of these shades. Sorry for blinding you. But obviously I have not hit gold in either of these two shades right here, but there is a significant pan right there, and I will put, like add in pictures just so you can see. So I reached half of those goals, and I have 2 more goals to reach on that. I also finished the Jouer eyeshadow in Cappuccino. If you remember, this actually had a brown shade in it. I've obviously finished it, but I repressed something into it, and I'm actually going to be introducing it, so I guess this is going to go a little bit out of order. What I repressed into it is actually the MAC pigment in Vanilla, and I decided that I'm going to actually introduce this into the project, and I didn't want to wait. So when you can't see it as clearly, but I made a mark at the halfway point here when I decided to just repress a little bit into this compact. So I repressed a little bit into this to just get started in advance. I do want to finish this entire thing by the end of this year, so I have just a little bit left. I have just this much left, but this will still take like a significant portion of the year. But as a result, it is going to continue in this compact, in the Jouer compact, because I already finished what was in there. It's a really good compact, and I want to continue. I've already reached a little bit of a pan right there, and I'm just going to continue working on that. So because MAC Vanilla pigment is not very bright, I want to actually take a little bit, maybe like the top corner here of this shade right here, this shade Marble from the Venus Immortalis palette, mix it with a little bit of this MAC Vanilla pigment from here, not from the other compact that I just showed you, And I want to repress that mixed into this little tiny corner down here. And that's going to both create a new inner corner highlight for me to use, but also it's going to give me an opportunity to continue working on this particular vial. So it's a little bit complicated, but that is the goal. And a good bridge for goal met and progress would have to be my Pat McGrath holiday palette, cheek palette from last holiday. So holiday 2022. This is what the palette looks like on the inside. And my goal with this palette is to use each of these products 20 times. And I have met that goal on this highlighter right here. I've used it 23 times and I'm very close to meeting that goal on the blushes. By the way, this doesn't matter whether I use the blush on its own or I mix it. So long as I dip into the blush, it counts. So this blush up here, I've used 15 times. This one here, I've used 11 times. This one here, I've used 11 times. And this one here, I've used 12 times. Actually, I should count my use today. So that would be 13 times. But I've only used this blush as blush 3 times. It is just too deep for me for any season. So I've been actually using it on my waterline, like right under there, as well as like in my crease as eyeshadow, and it works beautifully for anything that is like a deeper wine or burgundy look. Also goes really well with pinks, and I think that's actually how I'm going to continue using this for the lifetime of this blush. It's just not a blush I can use otherwise. So I'm almost there, almost there. This will be rolled out in my next update. Continuing with progress, next up is the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Duo, and my goal with this is to actually use this 100 times. Now, that goal isn't to use both of them as a single use 100 times. My goal is that so long as I use a product, it counts as a use. So if I use the bronzer alone, that's one use. If I use only the highlighter, that's one use. If I use the bronzer and the highlighter in the same look, that's 2 uses, because I'm just reaching into products I would not have reached into otherwise. And as a result, I have actually hit pan on the highlight. It's the tiniest pan, but it's there. And I've used this a combined 91 times. As you can see, I don't use them both every single time. So I have 9 more uses on this. Only 9 more uses. I am very excited by that, but I wish I could have rolled it out now, but you know, there are only 29 days this February, so I just needed a few more. Another highlighter I have an update on is this Ciate London Moon Dust highlighter. I've used this 13 times, and sometimes I combine this highlighter and some of the other highlighters to either add more zhuzh or lighten up or deepen something up. And I think that this is going to be the hardest one for me to use. There's a bit of a dip forming, but it's not my perfect shade. So I'm going to see how this works for me in the summer. As I mentioned earlier, I'm only talking about things that have like significant progress, because if I talk about the things that I use once or twice, it's just going to take up very, very precious time. And I'm actually introducing quite a lot of stuff. And one of those items that I have significant progress on is this Makeup Forever lip pencil in number 11. This is like an old formula. I can no longer read what the formula was because I have, sharpened it off. And I had to work really diligently on this, and I am wearing it today because this has started to change in smell. It's starting to have a more musty scent, and I think that if I finish this by the end of March, which I will, that shouldn't be a problem. I think I'll probably finish this by the halfway point of March. At least I would have, gotten my use out of it. But this is where I'm at, and I'm gonna obviously put in whatever pictures I have of these around here. When it comes to the ABH Master Palette by Mario, I actually have very significant changes in this. As you can see, I actually hit a second pan in Claudia. This was just a challenge. I wanted to see if I could do it, and I did. And I didn't even use it that much. I also hit pan in both Fifth Avenue and Kim. And I not only expanded the pan, but I actually hit side pan on Muse. Now, I didn't intend to, but I also hit pan and Violetta and NYC. I actually used up NYC. This is a combination of other shades that I use for my hair. And so, but I'm not gonna count it as used because it's like right there. The goal wasn't to use any of these shades, but I have been using them and I might as well show you. When it comes to this palette, I'm going to retire it until the fall because these are no longer the colors I want to use. Like, it's spring-ish out, almost. It feels like spring on some days. It no longer feels like fall. It no longer feels like the depths of winter. I mean, once in a while, yes. But I think that I'm going to retire this because I don't want to waste it. I really don't want to waste this palette. I waited, 7 years to use it, and I don't want to finish it just for the sake of finishing it for the project. And if the camera changed, it's because River literally moved position and hit the camera tripod. So I'm going to retire this. I may update you on this every 2 to 3 months if there are any changes, but as it stands, I'm probably going to reintroduce this either in at the beginning of September or the beginning of October, because clearly I can use this palette and I can use this palette up completely. So I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to enjoy it in its appropriate season. So say farewell for now. We'll see you in a bit. When it comes to the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in Fussy, I have been making progress, the same amount of progress every month it seems, just a little bit. I started right there, then I was there last month, and there I am right now. I'm going to need to like hunker down and work on this at some point, but it's a really lovely shade, so I don't really feel like working on that specifically right now. Maybe I'll make the same amount of progress next month, maybe not, maybe more, we'll see, but this is staying in the project. I've also been using the NARS Laguna bronzer in Laguna 1. I love this bronzer so much that when I saw that I was making a significant amount of progress and basically would be done with this by the end of April, I actually ordered another one. It is on its way to me already. I ordered it at Ulta. I had $10 off 50. I wanted to try something else. This was $40. I am counting that as $10 off this. So yeah, I ordered this again. I love this. I love this. I can't be without it. And that is with me having other cream bronzers in my collection. I actually went down a whole bunch of them and like swatched them all. And this was the most unique shade of them all. So I bought it. When it comes to this Makeup Forever Aqua XL, I was here last time. I used it like 2 times or 3 times, and I'm down here this time. Barely any difference. I didn't use the silver one at all, so I'm not even going to show that. Now, when it comes to the Merit Beauty Bronze Balm in Quince, I actually took everything out of here, and this was a bad decision because had I used this out of this stick, I would have reached the top and I would have been done, but nah. I dug into it, and then I took half of its sister, I don't know where that is, its sister in clay, and then I melted that down into this Makeup by Mario compact, and this is how much I have. And as you can see by the little bit of shadow that's visible there, that I already have a dip forming, but it's still too warm toned. It's light, but too warm toned. So I'm actually gonna melt that down, and I'm gonna, I guess, introduce this into the project as well. This is the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Bronzer in the shade Vacay Mood, and I don't have a lot left. I only have like a fifth of this left. I'm gonna melt this down into it and then hopefully turn that into a cooler toned bronzer, because this is really cool toned to the point where I can't use it, and this is uncomfortably warm toned right now when I'm really loving the NARS one, which is very cool toned. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. Basically, I'm gonna melt this down further and add more product. This is now going to take me the rest of the year to use up. Talking about Baron, I also used the Cheeky Flush Balm Cheek Color, and I took half of this, as you can see. I actually dug into it because there was a little bit more, a little bit over half of it actually. And then I actually then used this Kosas lipstick in High Cut and removed all of that and melted that down into this jar, and that is now how much blush I have put together. And it's still a little bit too berry, so I may mix other shades throughout the year. I got this idea, and what's funny is she's also melted hers down in an e.l.f. jar, Halo Glow setting powder jar. I got this idea from a YouTuber who did this as well. I'm going to link her down below because I'm struggling to remember her name, and I can't, only because when her video comes up, I'm just watching it and not necessarily going into the bio to see. When it comes to the Merit Great Skin Serum, I introduced it right here. I was here last month, and I'm actually down here this month. So I've made significant progress. I am doing pretty well. If I continue at this rate, I can probably finish this in May? Yeah, I think in May. And finally, when it comes to my brow product, this is the IT Cosmetics Brow Power in Universal Taupe. As you can see, this is how much I have left. So I'm comparing it to the new one, which is right next to it, and I'm going to take a picture of these side by side. And this was new when I introduced it. This is new right now. It's just a different shade. And I've used a little bit under a centimeter, I would say. Sorry. I used a little bit under a centimeter, but based on the progress I've made, I know this is going to take most of the year. It might take another 6 months, maybe by the beginning of September will be towards the end. But I use this every day, and I don't expect this to finish anytime soon. Now I have to go work a little bit longer and then I'll come back at the end of the day to introduce more products. It's the end of the day, I worked. Now I have to be really quick with the filming. I almost forgot to talk about these. The Dior concealer, Dior Backstage concealer. I'm actually making pretty good headway. I was right there when I introduced it, right there last month, and I'm right there now. I'll obviously put in the pictures, and my goal is to get to the bottom of the O. Will probably take me the entire year at the rate that I'm going. Not a favorite concealer, I have to say, but hey, it's going. I also forgot to talk about this, the Versed Weekend Glow Daily Brightening Solution. I introduced it at this point, and now I am right here. At the rate that I'm going, this is probably going to be something that finishes either at the beginning of June or at the end of June. But I'm thinking about 4 more months, 3 to 4 more months. And the final progress is on this e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. I introduced it at this point, and this is where I am right now. I actually use this as a mixer for the Haus Labs foundation because that was just too light. And I may keep using this as a mixer because I think it works beautifully like that. But I think that this should be something I can finish this year for sure. I either used up or met over 20 goals, so I'm going to be introducing quite a lot of products right now, so let's get into it. I'm continuing with my trend of introducing and cycling through foundations throughout the year and putting them in for usage goals, and I'm going to introduce the Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear Foundation in 120N. I am right here, right at the top. I've only used it a few times. Sorry, there are some swatches here. Please ignore them. Have no time. But I'm like right here at the top, basically at the top of the E right here in Lancome. My goal is to use every one of these foundations that I'm going to be introducing, you know, like cyclically throughout the year, 10 times throughout that month. So my goal is to use this 10 times because starting in April, I'm probably going to start fake tanning and this will no longer match. The same is true for this new CoverGirl Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence. This is in the shade Fair, 10 Fair. I am still a little bit unsure as to how much I like this product. Some days I really like it and some days I don't. So I am like right here, right now. I'll mark it. It's just right under where the wording is starting, where Tint Hydro Fresco is at the bottom. So I'm going to mark that, and this is going to be a pump that goes upwards, so that's just going to make life a lot easier. Goal is to use this 10 times, and we'll see whether this is a favorite enough where I'm going to buy a deeper shade in the middle of summer. And the next foundation I actually want to use up, and that is the IT Cosmetics CC Plus Nude Glow in the shade, where's the shade? It's marked off, like I don't even see it, but I think this was Fair Light. And this is basically a shade that doesn't work very well on me for most of the year, not even in the depths of summer without actually having to mix it. And this is where I'm at right now. I'm like right towards the bottom of the word glow, as you can see. And I think that I can use this up before the end of summer, but the only way I'm going to be able to use that is if I mix it. So while I don't have the IT Cosmetics product to mix it with, I do have the new e.l.f. Camo Hydrating CC Cream in Fair 120N, and this is a perfect match for me right now, I would say. And this is a lot more affordable than the IT Cosmetics one, so I'm going to use this as a mixing foundation for this, and I think together I might actually be able to use both of these up. If I finish the e.l.f. Camo Hydrating CC Cream, this is easy to purchase, it's pretty affordable to purchase, but also this will allow me to get this out of my collection, and I think that's going to be really great. If I use this up before I use this up, I do have other foundations to mix this with. When it comes to primers, I'm going to be introducing the Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer. I do love this primer. I have used it a little bit. I'll take a picture of it, but this is something that I want to get use out of before it dries out. I haven't had it for that long, but still, and I will repurchase it, and I will always repurchase it in this half size because I found that buying these smaller half sizes, because it is exactly half of the bigger size, it actually, at least when I bought it, was priced at less than half of the full size. So it's a far better deal, but also then you don't have a gigantic one to possibly get through, and then it dries out. So I'm going to work on using this up, and I'll only be working on this on like the pore areas, on the big pore areas that I have, which are right by my nose, not really here, but a little bit, and then on my forehead. So I'm really missing that Flower Beauty contour wand, so I'm actually going to be introducing the e.l.f. Halo Glow beauty wand in Fairlight. This is a contour one. I think I have a darker one as well, and I might introduce that later on in the year. But I want to use this up fully, and I am using it today. You can't tell, but like I am using it today. It's a very cool tone shade, so I think this is going to work great. It's not too pigmented, so I may actually go through this a lot faster than you imagine. And as I said, I'm using a little bit of this today, but I also use it on my double chin situation because it's there. So I will probably go through this a lot faster than most people. It's just because I'm literally using it on like a wider space than just this and this. So I'm going to be finishing this up. I'm hoping to finish this by the end of June. Since I no longer have an actual like under eye powder anymore, I'm introducing the Pat McGrath Sublime. Everything's just already like come off this, but I have a backup of this. I think this is Sublime under eye powder or something, and I've used quite a significant amount of this. I actually only have like this amount, like can't tell, it's like so bright, this amount left. It's just a white powder, but it's really phenomenal for under the eyes. It's really blurring, and it's the only powder I've ever found. First of all, this used to be a domed product, and look, not only is it flat, it's actually concave. But this is the only powder I've found that never makes my concealer, no matter how light it is, darker under my eyes. And that is such a difficult feat for other powders that I've never come across another one. So I will keep buying this. I have a backup and I just want to dig into it, but I want to use this up by the end of this year. I think actually I will probably be able to use this before the end of summer, most likely. So let's talk about shadows. And I mentioned that I was going to do it and already did it. And I told you that I was going to mix MAC's Vanilla Pigment with the white shade from the Venus Immortalis by Lime Crime palette, and I have done that. And I just want to use this up. This is going to be an inner corner highlight. It's still like wet, so I don't want to touch it. There's not a lot of it in here, but I do want to use this up, and that's the goal. I also want to use up this Urban Decay eyeshadow single in Sin, and I'm sure everybody knows what this looks like. This is like the old packaging, and this isn't new. Actually, there's quite a lot of padding on the edges. I'll try to take a picture to show it. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Can you see it? Like, I don't know if you can see that there's like pan showing on the edges. So this used to be cracked, and I just poured a ton of alcohol into it, so it like got wet and got completely flat at the top. So this is a little bit harder for me to use because this is not a really good inner corner highlight for me. It's too dark and it doesn't work as a good highlighter for the rest of my face. So this is definitely going to be something that is going to take me the rest of the year. I hope to finish it. I'm gonna, like be gunning for it, and we'll see how that pans out. When it comes to ABH, though, I'm not going to be reporting updates on the Master palette by Mario for a few months. I will be reporting on the Sultry palette, and I specifically want to use up one shade, and it's, of course, the brush had to fall out. And it is specifically this shade right here, Bloom. I want to finish the shade completely. I love this palette. This palette looks great to me, but that thing stands out like a sore thumb, so I want it out. I want it out completely, and I may even press something else in there that I like better. But as it stands right now, that's going to be the eyeshadow I'm working on. I've only used it, I think 3 times, and only the last couple of days because I wanted to see if it would be something that I could use with the Mastermind palette or if I wanted to use it with other products, and I will be using it with other products. So this is the only eyeshadow I'm working on. I also want to introduce an eyeshadow from the Pat McGrath Bridgerton palette. I think this was the second collaboration, I can't remember. My only goal is to use this shadow right here. Don't know the name of it. I want to use this 10 times, and I want to use it over that eyeshadow from the ABH palette, over Bloom. So that's going to be really nice, but I'm only introducing that one. It's a usage goal, and I think that's something that I can easily reach. I may even expand that goal if I really like the look that I'm getting into the spring, but we'll see. Another palette that I want to work on is actually this Colored Rain Botanical palette, and my goals for this palette are very simple. I want to use up Cream Gerbera completely, and I want to hit pan on Hydrangea. It's a green shade. I mean, the likelihood that I'm going to use this up is very unlikely, and I do want to use it in the spring, but the goal is to just hit pan on this one. I'm going to introduce another shade out of this palette next month, but right now these are the only 2 that I'll be working on. I'm also introducing this e.l.f. No Budge Cream Eyeshadow in Sand Dune, and this is basically a brown one. And my only goal is to use up half of this. So I actually already have a line drawn halfway down the middle, and I have started using it a little bit, and I want to use up one of these halves. I think that should be easy enough for me to do, and I really like putting this on and then putting this shade on. This is the Jouer Toffee shade, and I want to use up this shade completely this year. So I actually have to introduce these two together right now because these are a set essentially. So hopefully I'll be able to reach my goal on this one and finish this one. When it comes to eyeliners, I already have two in the project that I'm working on, but I haven't reached my goals on them. So I'm going to be bringing in 3 more because why not? The first one is the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Pencil in Invasion. And this is more of like a inky green shade. Very interesting. I want to use this 10 times. Actually, all of these 3 will be 10 uses each. The next one, also Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in the shade Vice. And this is a purple shade, and I want to use this 10 times as well. I actually have another one of these, so I do need to work on that. It's less creamy than it used to be, so I want to see if I can use this enough to either get to a point where it is creamy or toss it. And the last one is again 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in Roxy, and this is in a blue shade, and that's what that looks like. I think that's going to be something that I use probably into April and May, but these are the goals, 10 uses each. Let's talk lips. I only have 2 products I'm introducing only on top of the other ones I already have in the project. The first one is this Sephora what is the full name on it? Rouge Gel Lip Liner in the shade Creme de la Creme. I want to use this up, and I do still have quite a lot of this left, but I don't think this is going to be an issue for me to use up. Let me show you. This is definitely more of like a deeper coral shade. I mean, as you can see, there's like really not that much remaining. Let me see if I can show you a little bit better. Try to put in pictures where it's needed, but this I think I can use up before April. So my goal on this is to actually get it out of my collection by the next update. Let me swatch that for you. So it's a really pretty shade, but it's definitely better suited for this time of year. And then the other lip product I want to use up, and I also want to use this up by the next update, is this Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip in the shade Orchid. I don't have that much of it left, but I do want to use it up. I'm like at that point. And this is one of the products that I've been wanting to use up in 2024. I don't want to waste it too much. Like that's what that looks like. It's beautiful, and I am going to use this up, and I am going to use both of these up in March. I also want to introduce this IT Cosmetics Superhero No Touch Shadow Stick in the shade Passionate Pearl. I mean, how passionate can a pearl be, really? And this is me saying the person who loves pearls. So this is going to be a brow bone shade. I don't know if you can see it. I think it's going to be really pretty, and I have so much of this left because I've barely used it that this is going to take the better part of the year to use up. Maybe I'll try it as a cream highlighter from time to time as well. That'll be interesting. It'll get it used up, sure, but sometimes the highlighters that I'm using are a little bit too deep, and this might actually work really well for that. And the final makeup product I'm going to be using up is this Cali Ray Surf Proof Setting Spray. And this is like basically a half size. This is 2 fluid ounces. I've used it a couple of times, but it is still predominantly full. I think it's still like somewhere at the top of like this yellow line. So my goal is to use this up. It's not my favorite, so I want it out of my collection. Now let's talk about some skincare items. I need to introduce skincare items because it's just what works the best for me. And the first one is this Coco Kind Beginner Retinol Gel 0.1 Tri-Retinoid Comfort Complex. So now that I finished the retinol product from Pixi, I'm gonna bring this in, and this is, again, as you see, still in the box, and so it's like unused, unopened, nothing like that. This is what the container looks like. As you can see, it is completely full, and it's not even been opened. You can still see the seal. I haven't even opened it yet, so I will open it tonight and use it because I finished the other retinol product like a couple of days ago. And because I am bringing that in, I also have to bring in niacinamide because I've had this forever and I haven't used it, and I just realized that I have a whole bunch of other niacinamide products in my backup, so this has to get used. This is the ordinary niacinamide 10% plus zinc 1%, and I am at that point, and niacinamide and retinol really work very well together. And because I'm bringing that, I also want to bring in this particular sunscreen. This is the B Lab Matcha Hydrating Real Sunscreen SPF 50 PA+ 4 pluses. So the reason I'm bringing in sunscreen is not because I can't use sunscreen, but it's because this is not my favorite sunscreen. And I've opened like 6 sunscreens and I'm not going through them fast enough. So I'm going to be bringing in sunscreen every single month until I get through that backlog, because that's just insane. So I'm gonna use this up. I'm like at this point, it's not like it was very full to begin with, but this has been open for basically 2 months and I still have all of this left. I want to finish this in March. This is the goal. Must finish this in March. I have to use it, especially the day after a retinol product. Continuing on with some skincare items. Now that I have a puppy, I like to not dip my fingers into things, and I'm going to be bringing in my COSRX Advanced Nail 92 All-in-One Cream. And this is basically full, and I don't like the jar. I have 3 tubes of this, and I've been using the tubes, but not the jar, and the jar is basically full. So I want to finish this, and I need to be really mindful of finishing this because it's a great product. I really enjoy it, but because the puppy's like getting into stuff, I don't want to use a jar. So I'm working on trying and using that up specifically because I've been avoiding it for the last month. And I also want to bring in this L'Oreal Revitalift Overnight Mask. I have a good amount of it still, and this is probably going to take me a good chunk of time. I think from the side I can see that it's like right under the L'Oreal here. So there's like still like this amount left. So I really want to use this up because I think the smell is starting to change. It's definitely smelling a little bit different, and I've had that in my collection for a really long time. I know L'Oreal sent that to me ages ago. I don't even remember when I opened it. So my goal is to use that up. And so I have a goal of using up 10 deluxe size items throughout the year as part of my 100 items I want to use up in 2024. And so I'm going to start introducing them. And one of them is going to be this Peter Thomas Roth Water Drench Hyaluronic Glow Serum, 3% Hydrophens. It's basically full. I've had it for not too long, but the smell is a little bit off-putting, and I don't know if it's because it's changed or because that's it's supposed to be its smell. So I want to get it out, and my goal is to finish this up in March as well. And then also when it comes to a deluxe size item, I want to use up this Indie Lee Soothing Cleanser. So if I use up these 2 products, I'm 1/5 of the way to that point, and that is what I want to work on. And 2 final products, I promise you, I want to use up this Tree Hut Iced Coffee Sugar Scrub because it is basically full. It's not my favorite scent. I mean, look at that. I've used it basically a single time. It's not my favorite scent, so I want to use this up because it's heavy. It is something that I paid money for, and I want to get it out of my collection. I have Velvet Coffee and multiples of that, and that I love, so I keep going to that and not using this. So goal is to use that up. Probably going to take me a few months. And then finally, the last product I want to use up is this Trader Joe's Brazil Nut Buddy Butter. And the reason is because I bought a ton of these when this came out last summer. Let me open it. And this is how much I have left in this jar. I have 3 other jars. So I have to go through these. I mean, it smells phenomenal, but I have to go through these, and I have not been going through them, especially now that I have a puppy. I have to basically force myself because otherwise I'm afraid that she's going to get too close, she's going to lick it. But now I need to actually make a concerted effort to use this. So goal is to use it up. And that is it. That's all the products. It's a lot of products. I know it's a lot of products, but it's what works best for me. I hope this makes it interesting for you. I will see you in my next video. Hopefully I'll have a lot of these products out and I can introduce more. It's basically like an overhaul every month, and then a few products just keep on lingering throughout the month. I will see you in my next video. Bye.